Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Kong, and I'm one of the pre-health advisors here in the College of Arts and Sciences in Tyson Hall. And today I will be giving you a little bit of information about our health-related scholarships, um, how to apply for them, all of that kind of stuff. So today's presentation will go over the scholarship descriptions, eligibility requirements, the application process. We'll talk a little bit about how we here in the advising department review the applications. And then at the end, we'll talk about some tips and tricks for managing your deadlines. All right. So we have three main categories of health-related scholarships. That is the Margaret J. Weiss Fund, which is a health-related scholarship that is really general. So this is open to any health-related profession. It could be public health. It could be something to do with family and human services if you're thinking about health, right? So there are a lot more kind of options in that one versus the pre-dental and the pre-medical scholarships, which are only available for pre-dental and pre-medical students, right? All of these scholarships are due April 1st. Okay, so before you apply, please complete one of the following, either the FAFSA, the ORSA, or a statement of financial need. If you're an international student and you don't know what that is, please email us and we'll get that information to you. But basically, some of the scholarships are going to be need-based, and these documents are how we are allowed to evaluate need, or at least, well, one of the ways that we are allowed to evaluate need. Okay, and so here's the application itself. So apply using the UO Scholarship Dashboard. You can just search UO Scholarships. It'll probably take you to a page where you have to tell them that you're a continuing student, and then it will take you to a page that looks like this. So you'll just go ahead and click Dashboard, log in here on the right, as long as you have your UO student ID number. Okay. Oh, actually, let me go back. You can apply for scholarships if you have been admitted to the University of Oregon in a future term, right? So, for example, if you are a transfer student, you may still be eligible for some of these scholarships. All right, so the parts of the application. So the first part that you'll see is literally just information on the scholarship. And each of these windows is going to look a little bit different, for each scholarship, right? So the pre-medical one, we'll talk about the pre-medical one. The Weiss Fund, we'll talk about the Weiss Scholarship, right? It will have all of your eligibility requirements, all the information you need about the actual scholarship itself. Then you'll actually start filling things out, and these are where you'll fill out your eligibility requirements, right? So the first question is, do you plan to apply to any of the following programs after graduation? And it has options for MD programs and dental programs, because if you want to apply to the dental scholarships, you need to indicate that you are applying to dental school, right? If you are interested in the pre-med, you will need to indicate that you are applying to med school. You can't do both, right? You cannot pursue both dental and med at the same time. So if you choose dental, you will only see the dental scholarship. If you choose pre-med, you will only see the pre-med scholarship. Both of these, you can see Weiss, right? Weiss Fund applies to all of them, but you can't apply to both the dental and the pre-med ones at the same time. Okay. So you'll choose that, and then it'll talk to you about your credit requirements. Some of these scholarships require 90 credits. Some of them are okay at 45. So any of those, kinds of eligibility details, you'll fill them in there. Then the next section is the universal scholarship questions. So these questions are listed on many scholarship applications across the university. And anything that you change here will also change on those applications. So if you're applying for, say, a CAS General Scholarship, right, and you are editing your academic history, it's going to be edited in that scholarship application as well as your pre-med one or the Weiss one, whichever one you're doing, or whatever multiple ones you're doing. And then you will have the scholarship specific questions, right? So pre-med will have pre-med ones. The Weiss Fund has Weiss Fund questions. The pre-dental has pre-dental questions. You'll also see a couple of questions around extenuating circumstances and financial need. So while the FAFSA, the ORSA, or the Statement of Financial Need is one way that we assess need, these are the other ways. So you'll see prompts that ask you to describe any discrepancies or extenuating circumstances that hindered your GPA or ability to engage in extracurriculars. If something happened, please fill it out, even if you're not sure if it's completely relevant or whether or not it really hindered your abilities. Because more context is always good for us, right? If we're looking at your transcript and we're noticing a weird dip in your grades out of nowhere, but then we see this paragraph about how you suffered a concussion, then we'll be like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. This quarter is not like the rest of the quarters. It's not an indicator of your normal performance, right? So any kind of extra context you can help give to your transcript, your application is always good. So I do encourage you to fill it out if you do have something like that going on in your record. You'll also see this question, right? You need to mark that you understand that in order to be considered for certain need-based scholarships, you need at least one of these documents to be eligible for that scholarship. And then you'll also see a little additional essay prompt here. Do you feel like the FAFSA, ORSA, or Statement of Financial Need is a true measure of your own personal financial need? If no, explain why. So there might be reasons why your FAFSA doesn't really match, right? So for example, your FAFSA can often have your parents' information on it, but maybe something happened to your parents this year and that's no longer really accurate, but there's no real way to update your FAFSA or your ORSA or whatever, right? If that's the case, explain it here, right? Again, giving us any kind of additional context is always helpful. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and move on to talking about each specific scholarship, right? So the Weiss Fund is available to everyone, right? So you can apply for the Weiss, you can apply for Weiss and dental, you can apply for Weiss and pre-med. You just cannot apply for pre-med and pre-dental at the same time, right? Says that here on this slide. So this is open to anybody who has an interest in health and family related matters, right? Undergraduate and graduate students. Particularly if you've got an interest in health preservation and enhancement, health education, nutrition, or family health and well-being, right? For the Weiss Fund, we select candidates based on academic performance, extracurricular involvement, and financial need, right? So in the universal scholarship questions, there will be options for you to list your extracurricular involvement. So again, please list all that you can, right? You need to have at least 90 credits completed by the end of summer 2025 in order to receive this scholarship. All of these award amounts are going to have a range, right? We don't really know what it is until pretty much right before we're about to award it, just because of the way that, the tax calendar, quarterly reports, all of that kind of stuff works out. Okay, so if you are wanting to apply to the Weiss Fund, here are some examples from previous applications. You could be looking at careers as a career as a physician who's interested in working with women and children in Spanish-speaking immigrant communities, right? Again, health education, right? Maybe you are pursuing public health as your career. Again, that's health preservation and enhancement, right? Maybe you're thinking about social work, right? Producing a graduate degree in couples and family therapy. Nutritionist, you want to become a nutritionist, right? Any of these options, right, could be eligible for the Weiss Fund. If you have a more, if you've got a specific medical interest, please attempt to explain how it kind of meets these requirements of being about health and family related matters, right? So for example, you'll notice here for nursing, you've got an interest in public health, in education and nutrition, right? That lines up with health, education, nutrition, and our family health or well-being, right? So, it's not enough to just say, hey, I want to be a nurse. You have to say, hey, I want to be a nurse because of these reasons that are related to health preservation, health education, family health, anything like that. How do you do that? Well, through this essay, right? You have one essay prompt for the Weiss. Describe your interests and future career goals as they relate to health and family related matters, such as health preservation and enhancement, health education, nutrition, and or family health. Please include an example of a transformative experience that has helped you prepare for this career. right? So you can take if we're talking about how we consider your extracurricular experience, again, that's through the dashboard general application questions. You'll have an opportunity to list your work, your any service or community involvement you've had, or any other kind of extracurriculars you've had. Now, one thing that's different about the WISE is that it does need one letter of recommendation from a faculty member or supervisor. Now, this is due by 4/7, but the WISE application itself is due 4/1, okay? So we have a little bit of wiggle room for those forgetful faculty members or those super busy supervisors who may be running a little late on your letter of rec. You can let them know that they have until 4/7, but the rest of your application materials have to be in on the 1st, April 1st. Okay, so this is the pre-dental scholarship, the Bleakney, right? In order to be eligible for this scholarship, you need to be pursuing a career in dentistry. You need to be planning to enroll in a school of dentistry, and we are looking at academic performance for this. You need to have at least 45 credits completed by the end of summer 2025 with a minimum GPA of 3.0. Again, the award amounts range. And again, you cannot apply for both the Bleakney and the following pre-med scholarships, right? You can choose, you can do Weiss and Bleakney. You cannot do Bleakney and pre-med. I know I've repeated it a lot, but it bears repeating because we'll always have people who are trying to do both, and maybe you're confused on why not. That's why not. So for the Bleakney, you have one essay prompt. What motivates you to pursue the field of dentistry? Consider adding personal or academic examples or specific details that demonstrate your commitment to this goal. So hopefully you're noticing a trend at this point. We're always asking you to share some specific details about a particular experience that you've had, or maybe your exposure to the field, whatever that field may be. And again, that's just, again, to demonstrate your commitment, right? If you are really committed to this field, you probably have gone out and tried to learn something more about what people in this field actually do, right? So here's an essay to describe that, to describe what motivates you and how you have then been motivated to pursue, right, certain kinds of opportunities, which in fact probably motivated you even more, right? All right. For the pre-med scholarships, again, you cannot apply to the Bleakney and then also to these scholarships. You have to choose between Bleakney and pre-med. You can apply to the pre-med and the Weiss Fund, right? So that's a possibility. These pre-med scholarships are open to undergraduate students pursuing a career in medicine with the intent of enrolling in medical school. You must be planning to enroll in an MD or DO program, right? So PAs, not eligible. If you wanted to do nursing, not eligible. Physical therapy, not eligible, right? Only med school, MD or DO. For these scholarships, we base our selection on academic performance, extracurricular involvement, and one of them is need-based, right? So the Rogers, I believe, yes, is the need-based pre-med scholarship here. You need 90 credits completed by the end of summer 2025. Again, award amounts range from year to year. Okay. So for this application, there's only one application for all four pre-medical scholarships. Okay, so you will be considered in all four categories with just this, or all four options for pre-med with just this one application. There are two essay prompts for the pre-med, right? Why have you decided to become a doctor? Use this essay to describe your motivations for pursuing this career, why you are so committed to this path. Consider adding personal or academic examples or specific details that demonstrate your commitment to this goal. And then a second essay, describe one resume enhancing or life experience that contributed to your understanding of the field of medicine. So choose an experience that demonstrates your exposure to the field. Again, we want to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into and that you're still excited about it, right? You can't say, well, I watched Grey's Anatomy and it looked really cool, or I loved House, I wanted to do that. We want to make sure that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into and that you're enthusiastic about it, right? So what did you learn from this resume enhancing or life experience that made you look at medicine a little bit differently, right? Or made you maybe even more motivated to pursue medicine? All right. So for all of these scholarships, one integral piece to that is transcripts. You do need to submit an unofficial transcript with your application. Now, the deal here is that you need to upload a copy of your transcripts from all your institutions. So if you have transfer credit, you need to do that too, right? We need both transcripts. However, you can only upload one file, okay? So you can merge PDFs if you don't know how to do that. You can literally just Google how to merge PDFs. If that doesn't work, you can print the PDFs and then rescan them, right? There are free printing and scanning services on campus. If you're really having an issue figuring this out, email us here, let us know. I'm probably also going to upload a little video showing how to do that merging process. So look out for that in the future. Okay, so when we're looking at your transcripts, we are considering the amount of credits that you've completed, your transfer coursework, your prerequisite coursework, right? So for example, for pre-dental, you have to do certain prerequisites. For pre-med, you have certain prerequisites. Um, any honors and advanced coursework, any trends in the transcripts, right? If you started out rocky, do you have a strong upward trend, right? For best results, include a transcript that includes your winter 2025 grades. Okay. If you have transfer work, you can look up that information from DuckWeb. You can access your transfer evaluation report, save it as a PDF, merge it with your transcripts, right? Again, we need one file with all of your transcript work on it. Okay, for the Weiss Fund, right? That's the only one that needs a letter of recommendation. If you're only applying to pre-dental and pre-med, you don't need to worry about this. But if you are applying to the Weiss and maybe other general or other scholarships, those will require a letter of recommendation, right? So go to office hours, start forming that connection. Ask for a letter now, right? Give them time to say no to you, follow up after winter break and ask them if they're still interested in doing it, right? Please ask before you enter the letter writer into your application. Nobody likes getting a letter of rec link before anyone's ever told them anything about it, right? Including us here at Pre-Health. It's always a good idea to ask before you send that link, okay? When you're thinking about who to pick, you want to think about how well that instructor knows you. Can they talk about your thinking and reasoning competencies, your academic competencies? Is it more about your interpersonal or intrapersonal skills, right? Again, how well does the instructor know you? What can they talk about very confidently? How can they illustrate your competencies in these areas, right? If you're talking to them and you feel like they know you pretty well and they feel like they can, give you a strong recommendation about your academics or, your interpersonal skills or something like that, that's great, right? Go ahead and get a letter from them. However, if there's kind of like asking you for material to put in there, then if you feel comfortable telling them what you want in a letter, then that's totally fine. If you don't feel comfortable telling them what you want in a letter, then it's better to get a letter from somebody else, right? Because again, the more that the letter writer can back up their opinion with specific examples, the better. Okay, when we're looking at your experience, remember that the experience is part of the general scholarship questions. So we're going to be looking at what types of experiences you have, right? In the dashboard, you're allowed to list awards and honors, volunteer service and community involvement, activities, and work experience, okay? And you have limited amounts. So when you're thinking, does this go in activities or volunteer service? Again, think about your space there, right? When we're taking a look at those lists, we are thinking about whether or not they are college or high school, right? College experiences are preferable. We are looking at the breadth of work that you've done and the depth, right? So have you just been volunteering at a bunch of different service organizations without any real commitment to one, right? Or do you have some breadth, but also one or two organizations that you have been working closely with for quite a long time, right? And you really know what they're about, how they work. You're kind of, a veteran in that case, right? Please include all experiences, health related and non-health related. For many of you, you are learning critical communication skills in your non-health related jobs, internships, passions. Okay, so please include both. When you're talking about these, right, when you're listing them, if there's room to talk about them, focus on your accomplishments, roles, responsibilities, and add reflection. What did you get out of this process? What did you give in return, right? Um, we've got a couple of questions that ask you about, significant experiences that you've had. Again, talk about what you accomplished in that role, why it was so significant, right? What did you actually do? All of that kind of stuff. So whenever you're talking about those examples, again, you really want to tell us why it's important. If you're having some anxiety about your application, take advantage of the University Career Center resources, right? They have resume writing resources. They've got some good writing tips in general, like they've got this great action word list so that it can help you kind of vary up the action words that you use so that your application is a little bit less boring and more exciting to read. And then, of course, the essay prompts. So when we are looking at the essay prompts for whatever scholarship we're looking at, the purpose of these prompts are to allow you guys the opportunity to explain your interest in detail, right? It is also part of a holistic review process, right? So like I said, maybe something in your essay helps to give context to maybe some grades that you received, or maybe it helps give context to why you're pursuing this role, right? Again, the more information and context you can give us, the more able we are to make a decision, right? And these essays are also good preparation for future grad school applications, right? For all of the grad schools that you're interested in, you're going to have to write a personal statement, maybe more than one essay prompt will be there, right? It's very common to ask for a personal statement as well as like a statement of interest, which is kind of what you're interested in pursuing and why, right? Those things can happen. So doing these essay prompts is really good prep for those future applications. What are we looking for when we review these essay prompts? So, well, we're looking for well-written essays free of grammatical errors. We're looking for passion and interest in contributing to the health field, right? As well as a strong understanding of the health profession that you are pursuing. And again, we're really looking for that strong commitment to the field. So how can you talk about that? How can you prove those things? Well, it's all in your essay. You want to give evidence to back up your statements, right? So for example, if you are really interested in promoting the well-being and health of your community, that's great. Tell us what service things that you are doing in your community. How have you tried to tackle this problem already? What are you thinking about doing in the future, right? That kind of stuff. That helps us to see commitment because obviously if you were not committed, you wouldn't put that much energy into thinking about what you may or may not do, right? Be sure to reflect, right? And make that reflection explicit. A lot of times I find that students will just put details on the page and then expect me to know what to do with them, right? So instead of saying, I've gotten my CNA license and so I've been exposed to this kinds of patient populations and I really enjoyed my time working with them, but I want to pursue something that is going to be a little bit more interventional rather than waiting for them to get hurt and focusing on recovery. Great. Tell us about why being a CNA is going to make you a good candidate for medical school, right? It's not enough to just say that you're a CNA. Again, you have to connect that back and tell us what you're getting out of that experience or what you're getting out of, school or whatever that is then enabling you to be successful in the future, right? Utilize the Tutoring and Academic Engagement Center and or the online writing lab. For us here in pre-health, we can't really look too much at specific essays because we're the ones awarding the scholarships, right? So it wouldn't really be fair for us to be looking at these essays and helping you out with them when there are many students who will literally not be able to get an appointment and so therefore won't be able to access our help on these, right? So if you do need some extra support, check out the Tutoring and Academic Engagement Center and or the online writing lab. All right, so here is a timeline, right? So, now we're in the month of November. The most important thing that you should do is to complete your FAFSA if you haven't already, Okay. Then you can open up the scholarship dashboard and start filling out the application, right? Fill in your personal information, fill in your experiences, right? Take a look at the essays. In January, finish updating your scholarship dashboard profile, continue working on your essay responses. And then anytime between January and February, get feedback on those essays, right? Contact your letter writer if you're applying for the Weiss and make sure that they're still, cool on sending you that letter. And then in April, right, you'll need to submit your transcripts at the end of winter term. And all of these applications are due April 1st, right? If you've got a letter of rec, that can come in a little bit later, but all of the other materials need to be submitted by April 1st. Okay. If you've got questions, please feel free to email us at prehealthadvising@uoregon.edu. You can also book an appointment, right? Please reach out if you are feeling confused, right? If you need a little bit of extra guidance. And then the last thing that I'll end on is that I have only been talking about the pre-health scholarships, but there are plenty of other scholarships that you could potentially be eligible for, right? So please consider attending one of these financial aid workshops about scholarships and the application process, right? You might find a scholarship that you didn't know existed that would be perfect for you, right? I really want everybody who's watching this to get some free money, okay? So go to these workshops, see what they want from your applications, right? This is also really good practice for if you need to write, fellowship applications and scholarship applications in the future, right? All of that kind of stuff, okay? They've got in-person options as well as a virtual workshop. So there are plenty of ways to get your hands on this information. You can also talk to somebody from the financial aid office one-on-one if you want. Okay. Okay. So again, remember if you've got any questions, feel free to email them to prehealthadvising@uoregon.edu. And then once again, I would just like to remind everybody that all of these applications are going to be due on April 1st. Okay, April 1st is your deadline. You have a little bit of lee room for letters of rec for the Weiss Fund, but everything else needs to be in on the 1st. Okay, thank you very much and good luck.